Blackwood Creek. The name was a whisper, carried on a cold wind, through dying autumn leaves. The town itself was forgotten, lost to time and shadow, a place where sorrow settled, like dust on an old coffin. People avoided it, for good reason. They said it held bad memories. I, Elias Thorne, had to go. It wasn't a choice, not really. More like a pull, a dark magnet, deep in my gut. I had an old map, crumpled, stained. It showed the way. My grandfather had owned it. He never spoke of Blackwood Creek, but his silence screamed louder than any warning could have. I needed to find what he feared. The town greeted me with silence, a heavy, watchful quiet. The air tasted of damp earth, and something else. This was the heart of the darkness. This was where my search began. The manor's front door groaned, a sound of protest, or welcome. I pushed it open slowly. Dust motes danced in the weak light that pierced through grimy windows. The silence inside was different, thicker, more profound, suffocating. It pressed against my eardrums, a silence full of unspoken words, waiting to be heard again. I moved through the ground floor, each footstep a cannon shot, in the vast, echoing emptiness. Furniture hid under white sheets, like pale, shapeless ghosts. A grand staircase spiraled upwards, into deeper, darker shadows. Cold spots brushed against my skin, sudden, unexplained, like icy breath. The house itself felt cold, dead. Then I heard it, faintly. A whisper, or just the wind? No, the windows were sealed tight, a soft sigh from upstairs. Then, a dragging sound, slow, deliberate. My heart hammered in my chest. I was not alone here. Something was stirring in the gloom. I started up the creaking staircase. Each step felt like a journey into the unknown. Each step seemed to groan louder, as if the house itself was warning me. Echoing through the silent house, the creaks reverberated like whispers of the past. The air grew colder with each riser, darker too. The light struggled here, barely piercing the gloom, as if the shadows were swallowing it, consuming every bit of warmth and light. A heavy dread settled upon me, a feeling that something was terribly wrong, like a physical weight on my shoulders, pressing down with an invisible force. This house did not want me here, but something else did. Something unseen, yet palpable. I reached the second-floor landing, my heart pounding in my chest. A long corridor stretched before me, lined with closed doors, secrets hidden behind each one. One door was slightly ajar, inviting yet ominous. A child's room, I guessed, filled with relics of a forgotten time. Inside, a small rocking horse stood eerily still. It moved, just a fraction, as if touched by an unseen hand. Then again back and forth, a slow, deliberate motion. Slowly, no wind, no reason for it to move, no draft, no trick. My blood ran cold, pure terror gripped me. A shadow flickered at the corridor's end. Small, quick, like a startled animal, it darted away. It vanished before I could focus, leaving me questioning my own eyes. Then, a sound, so faint it was almost imperceptible. A child's giggle, distant, muffled, like it was coming from another world. It seemed to come from the walls, echoing through the very structure, from the very fabric of the house. My skin prickled. This was real, too real. These were not just stories, this was a living nightmare. Days bled into nights. I stayed, I had to. I made a rough camp in the manor's vast, cold library. Sleep was a luxury I couldn't afford. When it came, it brought nightmares, visions of fire and screaming. The whispers were constant now, not just sounds, almost words, cold, lost, help. They wove into my waking thoughts. I felt their eyes on me, always, from every dark corner, every shadow, through every cracked, dusty mirror. They watched me, with sorrow, with a deep, chilling curiosity. Sometimes I felt a touch of anger, not from the children, from something else, something older and much colder, protecting its sorrowful domain. Objects began to move, more openly. A teacup rattled on its saucer. A book slid from a high shelf. Doors creaked open or slammed shut. This was not just random energy, it felt personal, directed at me, as if they were trying to communicate. I needed answers, beyond the whispers. I drove to the nearest town. The Blackwood Creek Library was gone, but this town had its own, small, dusty. An old librarian peered at me. Over her spectacles, Miss Alara. Her eyes held a knowing sadness. She had heard of Blackwood Manor, and the family that vanished there. She seemed to expect my questions. Miss Alara spoke in hushed tones, of the Blackwood family, wealthy, respected, then the tragedy, a sudden fire. Decades ago, no survivors, the parents and their 3 children, lost. Their bodies never recovered, just ashes and unanswered questions. The town tried to forget, but some stories refused to die. They fester like old wounds. She mentioned the rumors, the whispers, of a caretaker, Silas Black, a stern, cruel man, they said. He lived in the manor with them. He disappeared on the night of the fire. Some said he started it. Others, that he died with them. But his name was a dark stain. The activity in the manor intensified. The whispers became clearer, more urgent. "Help us!" they pleaded. Soft voices. "He's still here." The air grew colder and the shadows seemed to move with a life of their own. "He won't let us go." The sense of entrapment was overwhelming, as if the walls themselves were closing in. Fear was a constant companion now. It clung to me like a second skin, making every breath a struggle, but it mixed with a desperate need. To understand, to help them. The determination to uncover the truth grew stronger with each passing day. The children's sorrow was palpable. Their eyes told stories of pain and loss that spanned centuries. A heavy blanket smothering the house. The mist seemed to carry the weight of their despair. Their fear was a sharp, cold knife. It cut through the air, leaving a chilling sensation in its wake. I started to see them clearly. Their forms became more distinct, more real. Not just fleeting shadows anymore, pale, translucent figures. They moved with a purpose, as if trying to communicate. Children, 2 boys. Their presence was both haunting and heartbreaking. One girl, Sarah. Their eyes were hollow, empty. Yet they seemed to plead for help, filled with an ancient sorrow, a sorrow that seemed to have no end, and a terrible, unending fear. Their terror was a constant reminder of their plight. They would appear at the end of hallways, their forms flickering like old film reels, or watching from a dark doorway, their eyes following my every move, then fade away like smoke, leaving behind an eerie silence. One night I felt it, a presence so strong it was almost tangible, a cold hand on my shoulder, icy, weak, but undeniably real. It sent shivers down my spine. I spun around, fast, my heart pounding in my chest. My heart leaped. Nothing. Just the oppressive silence of the empty room. Empty air, chilled silence. But the sensation lingered, a reminder of the thin veil between our worlds, the touch of a desperate spirit, reaching out for help, reaching out across the veil, trying to bridge the gap between our worlds. The barrier between worlds felt thin here, dangerously fragile, as if it could shatter at any moment. I knew what I had to do. I had to face Silas, directly, to free those trapped children. Their fear was a constant whisper, but beneath it, a flicker of hope, a hope they placed in me. It was a heavy burden, but it strengthened my resolve. I would not let them down. Their nightmare had to end tonight. I searched for his place, his core, the heart of his darkness. The children's faint whispers guided me, down to the cellar, dank, cold. The air was thick with despair, and a palpable evil. This was it, Silas's old room, or perhaps his lair, a place of torment, of control. The sense of his presence was overwhelming, like stepping into a frozen tomb. He manifested, slowly, not like the children's ethereal forms. He was a dense shadow, concentrated hate. The temperature in the cellar plummeted, my breath plumed in the icy air. His voice was a dry, rasping sound, like stones grinding together. "They are mine," he hissed. The children's spirits flickered around me, their presence both eerie and sorrowful. I could feel their pain, their longing for justice. Pale lights in the oppressive gloom seemed to dance with their restless souls, casting long shadows that whispered secrets of the past. My words seemed to reach them. Their whispers grew stronger, braver. They were no longer just echoes, they were voices demanding to be heard. He heard us, Sarah's voice, clearer now. He locked us in. The fire. Her words were filled with a mix of fear and anger. The truth of that terrible night began to surface like a long-buried secret clawing its way out of the darkness, began to unravel in the darkness, piece by painful piece, revealed the horror of what had transpired. Silas was more than just cruel. He was a monster, hiding behind a facade of respectability. He had been their tormentor, the source of their endless nightmares. The fire was not an accident, it was a calculated act of evil. Silas said it, deliberately, with a cold, unfeeling heart, to hide his unspeakable crimes, to erase the evidence of his cruelty, to silence the children forever, to ensure their voices would never be heard. And he had bound their innocent souls, trapped them in a prison of his making, to the ashes of Blackwood Manor, through dark rituals, through their fear. His malevolent power was palpable. His malevolent will kept them trapped, bound to the place of their suffering, in an endless cycle of sorrow. I searched the cellar frantically, guided by an instinct, a feeling, a desperate hope. There had to be something, an anchor, a clue to break the chains, something that tied Silas to this place, something that could set them free. My hand brushed against loose stone, a hidden secret waiting to be uncovered. Behind it, a small, burnt wooden box, a music box, its charred exterior hiding a story. I fumbled with the latch. It creaked open, the sound echoing in the silence. A faint melody played, sad, sweet, hauntingly familiar. It was a song of the past, a key to the truth. Silas screamed, a terrible sound, not of pain but of utter defeat. His dark form dissolved, unraveled, like smoke in a strong wind. He vanished, gone, for good. The oppressive cold in the cellar lifted instantly. A faint warmth returned. The air felt lighter, cleaner. The ancient evil was finally purged from Blackwood Manor's heart. The children's spirits turned to me. Their forms were brighter now, peaceful. Sarah smiled, a genuine gentle smile. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice clear. The other children echoed her gratitude. Then, one by one, they began to fade, not into darkness, but into light. A soft, warm radiance enveloped them. They were free, finally, at peace. Their long, sorrowful vigil was over. I walked out of Blackwood Manor, into the pale light of dawn. The sun was rising over the trees. The town of Blackwood Creek felt different. The heavy silence remained, but it was no longer watchful.